Welcome back to the Coruscant Knights podcast. Thanks for joining us as always. My name is Cooper. Joining me again is Jack.
Hello everyone, how's it going?
How are you doing today?
Yeah, pretty good, not too bad. I'm very excited for this week, to be honest. We've got a new series, which
That's it.
I'm eager to get into.
That's it. All right, so we are starting a new series called Reimagining, where we'll be looking at some Star Wars projects and discussing what we would change in some certain aspects. So this week we are looking at Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show that released in 2022. And it'll be a great discussion. We've got a list of things we want to talk about. Before we begin, go follow us on social media at Coruscant Knights. We're kind of updating again on there, on Instagram and TikTok. And also, go follow us on Patreon.
Yes.
Our Patreon is now free. And if you want to join us, we'll have a QR code here. So follow that, scan that. So it's now free. So go join. You'll get early access to videos. There's already some exclusive videos up there as well. So you can go check them out as well. But that would be a great way to support us. So
100%.
Again, it'll be here. And our socials are at Coruscant Knights. All right.
Yes.
Shall we begin?
Yes, I think we shall.
All right.
So initially, when we created this idea for this new series, we discussed between each other what would be a good one to open up with, and we thought Obi-Wan, considering it's pretty recent. It's also very controversial amongst a lot of people, I think. So on the second rewatch, I must admit, I think I do dislike it a lot more than I did on the first watch. I think purely because the first watch, when it comes out, you kind of get excited because it's Star Wars, right? It's no matter what it is, you'll get excited. And I think overall, it's because now after a couple of years and a lot of time has gone past, I think rewatching it, I was a lot more nitpicky with a lot of stuff. However, those nitpicks are quite large in the grand scheme of things.
Of course,
If you're going to critique a show, these are the main points you're going to critique. And we'll go into the kind of similar parts that we want to change in it. So I'm not going to go too much into the negatives now. But overall, as a rating of the show, I'm going to be honest, it's not even average. It's below average. It's below average. And it's sad to say that, considering how these are legacy characters in the franchise. With legacy characters, there's no way it can't even just be average. It should be average at bare minimum. So me giving it probably, I'm going to say a solid 4.
Yeah.
A solid 4 out of 10 because it does so much wrong.
Yeah,
Rewatching this was pretty painful because of just all the unnecessary scenes. In my opinion, I hated his theme. I just thought it wasn't what I want to picture Obi-Wan to be. The lightsabers looked weird. The cinematography looked weird at times. Shaky cam, set design, heavily reliant on the stagecraft, and just character decisions, script decisions.
It was a bit like that. It was a bit like, whoa, what happened here?
Yeah.
What happened in production?
Yeah.
I agree. I've kind of stood firm on the fact that Obi-Wan was not a very good series from the start, and rewatching it, I kind of realized, I'm right. It's not very good. I think, you've kind of mentioned all the points. I really think that, during filmmaking and even the editing process, just what happened?
Yeah.
Even, we mentioned it all the time, the lighting in this show is awful.
Yeah.
Even on the lightsabers. I go back to the third episode in the series where Vader's fighting Obi-Wan, and, Obi-Wan's lightsaber, it's like the blue
Pure
hue is just taking up the whole screen. It's weird.
You can't see anything.
Yeah.
You can't see any facial details. For example, before doing this, we had to look at some of the stills from the show, and all the ones with that fight in episode 3, the blue hue would absolutely saturate Ewan's face.
Yeah.
And it just looks like it's horrible quality.
Yeah.
Because it's just pure blue. On someone, he's like Avatar now. What's happening?
Exactly, yeah. I know. And even so, some of the logic as well. I know it happened in Ahsoka as well, where, Sabine got stabbed through the chest and whatever. Reva got stabbed through the chest in this series. It's fine. And then you also look at Tala. She got shot in the chest with a blaster. That's okay, that's fine. But she doesn't die to that. Yeah. But then you look at it, stormtroopers are dying to the exact same thing. They're wearing armor.
Even though it's not meant to be the strongest armor, it's still more armor than a regular vest or something.
It's baffling to me. So I don't know what happened. I feel like the people in charge of the project were like, okay, we're going to make this series. We're going to try and make it as in depth as possible. and then they just completely stuffed up on all of the supporting components.
You know what? I just realized thinking about too. Was this during or like before the writer's strike?
No, it was before.
Okay. Was this also was this the production that got a bit held and delayed for COVID too?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. This could be an issue on why some of everything is just not looking as...
of course.
Like, for example, we also, once again, before doing this podcast, we looked at some of the concept art which Deborah initially released for that rematch that everyone was building up to. Like, yes, it did look like it was on Mustafar, and yes, it probably wouldn't make sense to go back there unless Obi-Wan came to... Well, actually, that could be a discussion point for later. Came to Vader's castle to, confront him. Yeah. But it looks so much better. Like, it was an art drawing, and it still looks like something I would rather watch than what we got.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. It's just foul taste in the mouth, I think, a bit with this show, and it's disappointing to say the least.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So I think the first thing that I want to discuss in terms of how we want to reimagine is, and this is starting off very general, the story.
Yeah.
So I feel like the main reason I want to discuss this is because of why Obi-Wan leaves Tatooine. Because in A New Hope, you kind of get the sense that he hasn't left, and then also at the start of the show, he doesn't want to leave.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. Luke is obviously, that's his responsibility.
Important.
He's got to watch over Luke.
Yeah.
I feel like the show did the right thing because I can't imagine Obi-Wan needing to leave for any other reason besides for Leia. Leia seems like the only other important character. And the reason I bring up this is Leia's whole inclusion in the story, it's good, but it's like, how did it come about? Because she started off, she was always the adventurous type. In episode 1, we kind of see that. But she got kidnapped and then kidnapped again.
How'd she get kidnapped twice within like the same show?
Series. And she doesn't... So I think Leia's inclusion in the show was literally just to get Obi-Wan off of Tatooine.
And honestly, just to interject, I think that would have been just as fine to keep it like that. Yeah. Once she's returned safely the first time, why couldn't it just progress into, oh no, someone's, located this, figure from the Clone Wars. Oh, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, a Jedi survivor. Yeah. And then the show progressed from there. Why does she now have to be a main title character? It could have been an interesting cameo type thing, but also makes sense for the plot. And I agree with you in that sense. I feel like it did have to have Leia because how else would he get off? Otherwise, it would be at Tatooine the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
But to quickly twist on that, it still feels a bit weird how in A New Hope, they barely interact after having that really close bond.
Well, I don't think they ever do interact.
That's what I'm saying. It's it makes sense for why she sent the call out to Obi-Wan. Yeah. I think that's almost probably why they thought, it's developing this show. They're like, how are we going to get him off Tatooine? Oh my gosh. She says, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. How would she really know about him apart from the archives or something, of being a Jedi Knight? Now it makes more sense because if you ever need me, he says at the end, just let me know.
Yeah.
But I still think she didn't need to have that big of an impact on the story as a whole.
I agree. I feel like she became the plot in a sense.
Yeah.
It was all about protecting her, getting her home, which is fine. But it was a plot thing that could have been resolved in 2 episodes or 3 episodes rather than 6 episodes.
Yeah, 100%.
So that was kind of my main gripe. So if I was to change it, I would probably get Leia back. I feel like in episode 2, when they got on the freighter transport to go to, what was the planet's name? Not Mapuzo. No, it wasn't Mapuzo. Yeah, the planet with the Empire. The one where they fight the first time.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was Mapuzo.
It was something. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Anyway, so I feel like the convenience of that ship going to Mapuzo from Daiyu, that's obviously a plot convenience.
Yeah.
So I feel like they could have just ended Leia's story there, get her off at the start of episode 4.
Back to Bail.
And then, maybe he's been tracked or something. I don't know. And then the whole plot can continue as is just without Leia.
Yeah, basically. Well, you could have, to kind of branch off on that, when the whole Mapuzo stuff happened with Obi-Wan basically getting recon, it was the recon droid, wasn't it, that basically scanned him and sent back to the Inquisitors. So, for example, you could have had Obi-Wan just send, let Bail know where she is. Bail picks her up. Then Obi-Wan's on the way back to Tatooine, gets spotted on the freighter or whatever, then has to stop off at Mapuzo, for example. So you're still keeping Mapuzo, right? But Leia's already gone or whatever. And then you get spotted by the recon droid. He's just trying to, get his way back to wherever he is, get information, get spotted. Then he's on the run. Yeah. Classic trope from Star Wars. You could have just done something simple like that. Everyone's going after him. He's one of the most notorious fighters in the galaxy. He is the last remaining Jedi that they think is the most impactful against their plan. They're like, he's one of the strongest Jedi. We need to get rid of him ASAP. Yeah. Darth gets called. So and so happens the same. But instead of basically Leia getting kidnapped again or something, it's more just Obi-Wan trying to get back to Tatooine, trying to, avoid the Empire. Yeah. And Darth still comes down. He still does his thing. Obi-Wan still runs into Tala and finds that there's a resistance kind of, what's it called? Like the path, and everything. And that all kind of still happens. It's just in this end, Obi-Wan's not the one following Leia, and Leia's not the one discovering this kind of stuff. It's Obi-Wan discovering it and doing his own thing. The show is, in the end, about Obi-Wan, why we were not really focusing on him to begin with, know?
Exactly.
So, I think that bit would just be... It's not a hard thing to do.
No, it's not.
And it's nothing against also having not Leia in a show. Like, we love Leia. It's more just... I think when they added all these different other plot of, like, it kind of veered away from the main one. Yeah. And this is probably the issue that eventually we'll get into about Reva. It's kind of like, when is it not... Like, when do we say this is not an Obi-Wan show kind of thing?
Correct.
It just kept going and going off different other weird tangents, really forcing Obi-Wan to be in these situations which he probably wouldn't have been in initially without these characters. And it's like, well, I would have liked to see that story instead. Yeah,
exactly.
Instead of beginning, like, Obi-Wan basically getting exposed because of all these other people's mistakes.
Yeah. And to be fair, it's not like Leia really has that much of an impact on the rest of the story after. She's more of a, she's a plot device.
For Obi-Wan to get into a thing with Darth.
She's captured twice. So don't even go to the Inquisitor planet. That didn't need to. That was
It could have just stayed there as the Inquisitors, just doing their research. You see them kind of building a plan to take out Obi-Wan, and you didn't need to have Obi-Wan infiltrate the base to begin with. We already seen that in the Jedi games, and it was also just done worse in the show than the games. So I don't know. And then you wouldn't have got that weird trench coat scene with. You know what I mean?
That's what I was thinking. Ewan McGregor looks so uncomfortable filming that scene.
Once again, it's just, you don't need that to happen. And if you remove Leia from that bit, then that wouldn't have happened. And then you wouldn't have also gotten the slap on the Stormtrooper's head.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of weird stuff would not have happened if she didn't get captured the second time even.
Correct.
So just end her story after she gets saved the first time.
That's it. Simple. I think that would have just shifted the focus back to Obi-Wan, which is what we want.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Do you want to talk about the next topic?
Yeah, so this one, every topic that we have today is in relation to the story, of course, because, everything has an impact on the overall story. But I think this one would be interesting to discuss because it's a very big topic that came out that was prevalent at the time, especially with Reva, is the Inquisitors. So would you like to remind me, Cooper, is this version of the Grand Inquisitor, is this the one before Rebels or after?
Before. I think it's set 5 years before Rebels.
Yep, so... Here's my major thing that I would change with the Inquisitor story kind of in this bit, is have it more focused on the Fifth Brother and the Grand Inquisitor, considering that we see them in Rebels and everything else, basically.
Yep.
I also think it would have built up the Grand Inquisitor a bit better. This one makes it feel like, how is this even the same one that we see in Rebels? Yes, the Rebels one wasn't the strongest, but he at least struck a bit of fear into you. You know what I mean? This one here, now going back and watching the Rebels version, it's after, it's like he just got dookied on, basically. And now he's like, yep, I'm still a Grand Inquisitor because I somehow survived and, I didn't do anything, but I'm here. And this is the whole issue with having a new character for the sake of having a new character and just adding characters to a show that you didn't need to add. Nothing against the actress again, but Reva, no offense, you don't need to have her in the show. Correct. She slows it down. She also steers away from what the premise of the show is. And we also didn't really need that weird link as she was a youngling and all this kind of stuff. I feel like you could have even almost done that with the Grand Inquisitor and gave him a bit more depth. I know he wasn't a youngling. He was a Jedi Coruscant guard, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would have been cool almost to see that perspective of his perspective of Anakin doing, taking out all the younglings and stuff. Why did you need to have a youngling perspective that somehow also they indicate that she survived Anakin's strike almost? Twice. Yeah. What kind of writing is that? That is appalling. It's so bad. anyone could have thought, like a 10-year-old would have made a better script than that. Like, it's really cringe when you think about it, like how this was even greenlit, basically. And I feel bad for Ewan and Hayden in that sense. But so what I would have had done is still have everything that the Grand Inquisitor did. Like, First Planet arrives, does all these questioning stuff. But instead of when they go back to base and then they get the call out that Obi-Wan and stuff's on Dayu. So now Dayu would be another situation that you probably want to talk about later. But I'm going to, considering that it's in the story, I'm going to keep this in. It's about the Inquisitors. Still on Dayu, instead of Reva always constantly interfering, Grand Inquisitor and the Fifth Brother is still on the look for Obi-Wan, right? Mm-hmm. And Obi-Wan becomes an encounter with Grand Inquisitor. Grand Inquisitor knows about their past because he's a smart man. He's done his research. He says what Reva says, basically, and knows that that's a tactic to strike fear into Obi-Wan, right? Same thing happens, right? But you've got Grand Inquisitor and you not have the unnecessary shouting and non-scary presence and non-villainous presence, and it just kind of removes Reva from that sense. But if we're going to keep Reva in the story as such, I'm going to keep her doing that then. But the way I would end Reva's story, I would have her end when she makes a mistake and Vader comes in and confronts her.
Yeah.
Because literally in the comics and stuff, Vader does not care anything about the Inquisitors. He thinks that they're a waste of time. He thinks that they're not even needed because he's the one doing all the hunting. Yeah. Like, he degrades them all the time. So if he ever saw any Inquisitor, no matter if it's a grand one or not, he would have just killed him on the spot. Yep. So if you were to keep Reva in the show, which I think wouldn't have been a good idea to begin with, but if you are keeping her in, that's the point where she dies. Yep. And that's the point where the Grand Inquisitor kind of becomes the main, and then kind of looks, and then Darth would even look to the Grand Inquisitor, right? Because he never got stabbed, let's just say that never happened, and everything else still happened as the Grand. Mm-hmm. And Reva was trying to do some external thing to get in the good books because she does want to be close to Darth to end up, killing him and all that weird stuff, you know what I mean? But anyway, the Grand Inquisitor then goes, I'll take charge of this mission. Don't worry, Vader, I will promise you results, right? Yeah. And then he doesn't get, and then he maybe doesn't, end up, obviously, he maybe finds Obi-Wan, he gives Darth where he is, and Darth's like, thank you, Grand Inquisitor, you did well, I will now finish the job. So he didn't fail, but he also didn't do anything directly, you know what I mean? Course, yeah. So he didn't 1v1 Obi-Wan, because then Obi-Wan would obliterate Inquisitor, of course, yeah. So I think that's just a good way of kind of showing, how always, Darth always in the original trilogy always just disregarded the Imperial officers. Yeah. Why can't he do the same with the Inquisitors? Yeah. Simple as that. Yeah. So I think it wouldn't be a grand switch or reimagine for that. It's more just shifting the focus from a character we already have established. Correct. And giving him more depth, whilst also being true to Darth's character and also kind of the Inquisitor's role in the whole franchise. Yep. They're not meant to be main villains, right? Correct. And Reva felt like she was a main villain and threat to, and that would have reduced, and that would have gotten rid of that whole weird plot hole almost with Reva chasing down Luke, which shouldn't have even been a thing. Luke wasn't in the show much. Fine. He doesn't need to be chased down by an Inquisitor. That shouldn't have not even been a thing, right? Yep. And it should have ended the whole thing and you only have one that focused plot. Perfect. Done. Yeah. That's how I would do the Inquisitors. In other words, in short, you're shortening down their screen time and their impact on the overall plot, whilst also developing Darth's character and also the Grand Inquisitor's character. Correct. Yep. Simple as that.
And that's the simple formula. I mean, I don't really have much more to add because you pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. I really didn't like the notion of the title of Grand Inquisitor. Yeah. I feel like we've known that, we don't know their names, obviously. Well, we do know some of them, but the Grand Inquisitor, the main one, I feel like he has earned that title just because he dies. Like, even in Rebels, you see, in seasons 2 and onwards, as soon as the Grand Inquisitor dies, no one else gets that title, or at least to our knowledge.
So is that just like his name?
I thought it was weird. Like, that's what Reva, supposedly that's what Reva was chasing, but then she's got other
motives. Of course, yes.
But yeah, I loved, when I saw the Inquisitor ship fly in the first episode, I'm like, oh my God, okay, here we go. Yeah. This is going to be awesome. And then they just let that Jedi run out of the canteen
so easily.
It was like, what? But these aren't the guys I remember from the animated series.
And on your point of the Grand Inquisitor, it'd be cool if they had to do like a certain mission, or he earned that role to be the number one Inquisitor, and like Darth maybe only really respects a little bit of the Grand Inquisitors but hates the others, right? Yeah. So he goes through the Grand Inquisitor directly to talk to the other ones. Could have even done like a kind of like a thing like that kind of thing. Like it's an apprentice, but not really to the extent of a actual apprentice.
Yeah.
But they didn't even do that route. They just gave a useless title for a useless point, in other words.
Correct.
So,
yeah. Anyway, I think, the whole point about the Inquisitors is like shifting them away. I feel like Vader needed to, and we'll chat about Vader next probably, but making Vader's presence more impactful,
intimidating, and
because the Inquisitors, although they are awesome, just the right Inquisitors weren't given the right situation to work with.
Fifth brother. He didn't even have... Why was he even in the show?
Useless.
Like...
Fan service.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like... So many... And this doesn't just become for the Inquisitors. There's a lot of characters in this show, and I don't even think I want to talk about Camille's character, because it's just... Why they're adding these useless characters for just clogging up screen time, and I think... By the end of this whole episode of this reimagining, I think my main thing I'm going to say is it should have been a movie.
Yeah.
And being a movie means so much more than just being a movie. It means you will cut away all these characters because you don't have enough time for your main character, then Obi-Wan and Darth. Because if you had them filling up the screen time, then you'd have like a 3-hour movie and the studio wouldn't let that go through.
Correct.
Meaning that if these characters were in the show, they'd be done movie, they would be cut down completely almost, or just not even in there to begin with. So I think that's where they also missed out on. And also, if it was a movie, they would have still made more money because people would have loved to go to the cinemas to watch this, even if it was a bad movie. See what, like,
but
the sequels
to be fair,
did.
Like, this was one of the first, besides Mando and Boba Fett, this was like the first real big Disney Plus series. So this was something that they obviously were getting ready for the Disney Plus. So.
And also coming off, Boba Fett show into this one, it already had a bit of shaky ground from fans, and that would be a nice one to go reimagine another time too, because wowza, that is no rip into that one.
Yeah.
But I think we should probably just focus back into one of the main characters in the show, which I thought deserved to be more of a main character.
Yeah. Well, again, so we'll talk about Vader, but I feel like we've already kind of covered that in the sense that the whole point in reducing the presence of the Inquisitors
is to increase his.
And I'm trying to think about points in the show, because he's really mainly introduced at his first on-screen appearance is the final shot of episode 2.
Yeah.
And then he's not really in episode 3. Everyone kind of looks off in the distance and sees him, and then he's in the final fight at the end. Yeah. But I feel like Vader already has enough of a reason to chase Obi-Wan personally to see to it. I don't know. Obviously, we get in the end, the Emperor kind of says, why are you doing this? Why are you going after Kenobi? There's bigger things to look at.
Yeah.
But he's already got that motivation to go after Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
We don't need Reva, a non-established character who somehow just thinks he's alive, has a hunch. We don't need her to go do that. We've already got Vader to do that.
Yeah.
Vader can go do that.
He should have already been on the thinking idea of that he's alive still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool if Vader went on this massive investigation hunt, like kind of what Reva does, but to go find Kenobi?
Yeah.
And then right at the end of the series, instead of sitting there and the Emperor's going, we got other things to do. Yeah. What if like the Emperor showed up and was like, what the heck are you doing? What did you do? And then Force Lightning.
Just punishes him for it. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
It would have been cool to see Darth almost go against the Empire in that sense, where he's going off his main course of action and like tries to do it secretively. Yeah. Like, I really want Obi-Wan dead, or I want to know if he's alive so I can make sure he's dead to, put Anakin Skywalker to bed, to rest, but doesn't be verbally honest to everyone about it, and everyone else is getting suspicious of Darth. Is he's like, they might be thinking, is he trying to turn against the Empire? Is he trying to turn good? And then they realize it's because he's got this grudge against Obi-Wan. Then the officers alert the Emperor. The Emperor has to come down and put him back into place after, he loses the fight to
That
Obi-Wan.
Sounds so much better than what we got.
Instantly. Like, I feel like it was true to his character because he is a very petty character. Darth is petty to begin with. Even as Anakin, he's petty. He's very selfish, stubborn, and Emperor's always doesn't like Darth to get too powerful and also too confident. So if he always likes to put him back into place, which we see all the time. So it would have been good to see that, and also make a more reason for Emperor to come down, because if it'd be more evident for Emperor to come in and take a course of action if Darth is going, if he figures out that he's going to try and end Kenobi, because if he knows that, if Kenobi kills Darth, then his plan's going to be very hard to enact with the Death Star and everything, because he doesn't have a right-hand man.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Luke's too young. Like, he doesn't know about him at that point in time too. So it's like, he needs to step in, because if he loses again, he's not going to be alive, kind of thing. So it would have been a lot more, scary for Emperor to have a bit of fear into him too, being like, this Jedi has taken out so many of my past apprentices, also put him in the suit. He needs to be stopped. Either I need to help Darth, or I need to punish Darth from trying to even go after him to begin with.
Exactly.
It would have been cool to see that kind of, conflict within.
Absolutely.
And I think that would have shifted focus more into about those three characters who probably have a greater impact.
The main ones we should have been looking at.
Yeah, instead of a bunch of other useless, even Tyler didn't need so many just unnecessary characters in the show. And I think that's where it becomes evident. Like, every episode you've just, like, even Tyler's guy that she works with, like that guy in the Rebel, what's it called? What's his name? You know the one? What's it called?
In a part of the path.
Yeah. He's like, you don't have to go fight them. We can't leave us, kind of thing. And then eventually, he stays and fights with Obi.
Hang on, I know who you're talking about, but I'm gonna.
He was someone's kid. He was a famous actor's kid who plays him.
I know who you're talking about. I just need to check the cast quickly. It was.
It was that quote that you put in as him.
Damn it, I can't.
You know the one I'm thinking of.
Colin?
It could be.
Colin? Oh, Roken.
Yep.
O'Shea Jackson Jr.
Yep, O'Shea Jackson. Yep.
Yeah. Roken.
Yeah. Yeah, another useless character who doesn't need to be in there. Like, it's... Even the droid is so... honestly, thinking about this show is so draining, because I'm like, how does a writing room think, all these... the fans are going to get hyped to see Roken and Tala and, what is going on? Like, it's so... I think, honestly, rewatching this, and it'll be interesting to see what my thoughts about the Boba Fett one is, because honestly, thinking about this is honestly more infuriating than the Boba Fett show does, because at least there's not a lot of useless characters in that show, I feel. As in this show, there's just so much unnecessary things happening.
Yeah.
For no reason at all.
Correct. Not
explained. And since we're still a bit on Darth, I'm going to mention the whole episode 3 end where he burns Obi-Wan because he wants to get the revenge on how he felt. I get that. But then the whole explosion thing after, and then Darth's just standing there looking at Obi-Wan. It never gets answered, never gets explained. Did he hesitate because he's still got a bit of Anakin in him? Does he want to strike fear into Obi-Wan, showing that he could at any time end him and he can't do anything about it? Or is he just standing there for the sake of standing there, which I think is what he did? Like, in the reimagining part of that, I would have... So you know how, like, Tala shoots the thing and it causes another fight? I would have had an actual impact explosion which sends them both flying away. So Obi-Wan gets to safety like normal and Darth can't get him in that sense. Simple. And also makes sense, because it's like... He could have just force pushed the fire away like he did before. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's such a weird thing to add. And I probably wouldn't even have him fight Obi-Wan in that episode 3-1. No. I would have a greater build-up for that final one and make that the most impactful thing ever. Because how has he already gotten away almost? Or they fight twice in one series. Yeah. But nothing, I don't know. It feels... This whole show feels like a fever dream that almost...
That's so true.
That doesn't need to exist. It feels very fan-fiction-y. And we're going to talk about that in the later discussion point, because the whole show feels fan-fiction-y to the max.
Yep.
So, unless you got anything...
No, I don't really have anything more to add to Vader. I feel like the main point for me was just have him in the show more.
More focused on him rather than the Inquisitors kind of being the main villains of this show.
Correct, yeah. Do you want to talk about Obi-Wan a bit?
I think you can go first. I think.
Well, I was going to say I don't really have that many issues. My main issues are like dialogue. I didn't think the dialogue was alright. I thought his character was alright. He didn't have anything wrong in my opinion.
I mean, I agree with you to the extent. I don't know if I would have gone the old man Luke style with him trying to disconnect from the Force. I would probably have him more because you see him in A New Hope being Force kind of. I know, like by the end of the show, he's like got hope again, kind of thing. Like, but I don't know if I would have had him disconnect from the Force. I maybe would have had him be hesitant to use it because he doesn't want to get exposed. But like having him almost learn and regain that passion to be a Jedi doesn't feel like it's Obi-Wan's kind of character. He's always been the Jedi to have always hope, and even in times of darkness. And I know he lost a friend and the Empire is rising and the Jedi are gone and he's on his own. You know, I get he would have kind of sadder thoughts and everything, but I wouldn't see him disconnected himself from it completely. I don't know if I would have had him like completely forget or can't use it when he's doing that on Daiyu where he's like, oh, and then gets it. Like, that's so not. And then if you see that and then see his progression to the end of the episode beating Darth,
doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. Darth has been training. He's been still powerful, angry during his time. Everyone's cut himself off. Then only like a few days or, you know, a week later, he's bested Darth again. No, if you said he was just hesitant to use a Force, but he's still very strong in it, it would have made more sense that he beat him. I think that's the main thing I would change. Because rewatching it, I'm like, he couldn't almost even lift Leia from the ground, and now he's beating one of the most powerful Sith in the galaxy. Like a few days later, like
just because he rediscovered the Force. Yeah,
exactly.
That's fair enough.
It's a bit weird in that sense. Like, it's very forced again. Everything in the show feels forced. You didn't have to have him disconnect because then it would have made sense for him to still win.
So, in terms of reimagining, you would have already had him still be
Force
one
strong.
with the Force or whatever.
Force.
Strong with Force.
Yep. Which is a simple, like, it doesn't change anything in the story. He would have just forced Leia back up instantly. But more, instead of like, oh, is he going to be able to tap into the Force? It's more like, holy cow, I'm going to have to show myself as a Jedi kind of thing. Like, more as in he's too scared to use it because he doesn't want to be exposed to everyone. He doesn't want people to know he's Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, not like, oh, I don't want to do this because I'm Jedi anymore. I don't want to, be a Jedi anymore. Like, oh, like, come on, no. You know what I mean? So I'll probably have more of that. But everything else with Obi-Wan's fine.
Yeah.
His script was pretty poor. Like, the lines he was saying. Actually, this is a nitpick. I would probably have him in a cooler costume. You know how by the end he's got that nice white robe? Why couldn't he have that before he fought Darth? It would have been nice to have goes to fight, because he goes off the planet to fight Darth to draw him away. Imagine if he like kind of suited up in his robes to like strike that fear into Darth, being like, I am the Jedi who put you in that suit kind of thing.
Could have done that.
It would have been very cooler to see.
And that's fan servicey without being too over the top.
Yeah, 100%. It would have been a smarter move for Obi-Wan to get on the right footing against Darth too.
Absolutely.
To not look like some raggedy homeless man.
Yeah.
About, or maybe even cut his hair or pin it back, or just like to show that he is now ready to fight the greatest Sith Lord again. Instead of just some hobo off the street. Yep, I'm going to force push him, hair dripping down, emo style. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's a great description. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to discuss about Obi-Wan, in all honesty.
But I mean, it's a good thing that we don't have too much, because it shows that he's a title character.
So I feel like if we're talking about Boba Fett, that's a different sort of story.
I would change him completely. He's got a lot to change in that show. But yeah, I think even have Obi-Wan more in the show too. He probably could have got more screen time.
Probably. Or more meaningful story.
Meaningful impact on the story. Because I feel like everyone else led Obi-Wan to the point of it.
She's just
Leia.
He's just
Tala.
ushering Leia around pretty much.
Leia, Tala.
Correct.
Helping out the people stuck in the hole. Everything's
boring.
It's just everything. It's like they're forcing. Every character's forcing him to be Obi-Wan. Correct. And I'm like, it should have been almost his decision to become Obi-Wan for an impactful purpose. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's on me. I need to be Obi-Wan again, or I'm gonna die. Simple as that. Like, he had to stand his ground and be the Jedi he is, and not scared to be exposed by the end, kind of thing. Like, he starts off as a worried, scared, broken Jedi to being confident at the end, like he is in A New Hope, where he's confident in himself, kind of thing, and everything. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much simple as that.
Yeah. All right. Let's move to the final fight. As another main kind of thing.
What everyone was hyped up about.
Yeah, and rightfully so.
Yep.
I thought it was a pretty good fight.
It was pretty good.
But the just surrounding factors, and I guess you kind of want to comment on this as well.
Yeah.
The planet of choice.
I think that is the the major part I would change would be the
Yeah,
planet.
it just was a strange choice. And it was so dark. Why is everything
Yeah,
dark in this
Nowadays,
series?
it's like, it's just, it makes it harder to watch, I think, as just a viewer. And also leans into their bloody lighting of their lightsaber hues more too, which is just frustrating.
Yes, agreed.
Um,
I also wasn't a massive fan of, like, obviously it was cool when Obi-Wan did this and went with the rocks.
The rocks.
But it kind of was like,
it's rocks.
It didn't really make sense to me. Like, since when does doing that make rocks go?
He could have just done, like, you know how he did that force push, which was sick, and forced him back into it. Does like you know what would have been a monumentous occasion, kind of like have. This is a bit of a filmmaking category that I don't want to really get into, but what I would have done personally is I would have had the perspective from Darth Vader's actual POV. This is what I would have done. So after he gets force pushed, I would have had Darth's mask POV, because we don't get any like point of view shots. I would have had it through his lens. He's like on the ground still, so from his perspective, Obi-Wan is now, he ignites his lightsaber and he's above him in the POV kind of shot.
Oh yeah.
And you can hear Darth breathing internally, like panting away, scared.
Oh.
So instead of having that glorious, ooh, rocks, I would have had, oh my gosh, we are experiencing a scared Darth inside.
Crazy.
That
might be the best suggestion you've had today.
I just got chills from my own point.
My God, if someone out there can animate that, do it.
And you see Obi-Wan just with his ignited lightsaber, like full, like, you know, serious, and he looks like the villain in this sense, and Darth is like the scared Jedi. You know what I mean? Like, holy wow, that would have been monumentous.
That would have been pretty cool.
So I probably would have done that.
Yeah.
And then Darth gets up slowly, ignites his saber hesitantly, and then they both go at each other, you know, instead of the rocks on him breaking a rock and then going back into it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Going into the planet though, I don't know if you've thought about this. What planet, like, I don't like this planet that they fight at, but I don't know if I have a planet in my head that I do have one, which I think, I don't know a particular name for it, but I have a what's it called? The environmental factors that I would like to mention. I don't know if you would agree with me on this. I would like to be a stark contrast from Mustafar and have it as an ice planet.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Camino, but
no,
Camino's gone at this point.
I would think either the one that the Bad Batch were on recently. What's that one? That snow, not Hoth, but the snow planet, or even the I know it wouldn't make sense to like have them randomly close nearby. Even the one which is the one also where the younglings got their crystals from. Ilum.
But that's Starkiller Base, so I think it's already on the verge of being transformed.
That's true.
Actually, that could be alright.
It's early days still, but I was thinking, not Hoth either, because you don't want to always. I think that planet would look visually cool to have. Imagine, like, just viewers, picture that final fight with a snow, icy biome, and even if you wanted to say that he does a rock thing still, imagine if they were icicles, like. He draws it up from the ice, kind of like Sub-Zero style,
cool.
Puts them into like spears kind of thing, and tries to jab, you know.
That would be cool.
Instead of throwing a rock in him, he's throwing like ice, like icicles into him.
That would be cool.
And Darth's suit's covered in snow. You know, the whole aesthetic is like, you know how we see him at the end of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I was thinking that planet.
How nice would that look?
That would look very nice.
Like visually stark from when they're fighting in a hot lava planet to an icy, cold, snowy biome. And it would be bright, meaning that you don't have to have the lightsabers emitting a lot of hue. You can just see that beam of light and you can see what's happening. And even you could have snow environmental impacts, like they're getting slowed down in the snow, or like someone tries to do a force jump and gets kind of, you know, bogged down. And it would just make it a lot more visually cool, because we've never seen a lightsaber battle in live action in snow like that.
I would disagree with you.
Which have we seen it?
Force Awakens.
Where did
on Starkiller Base?
That's not snowy though.
Yes, it is.
Not really.
Yes, it is.
You talk about the forest with Rey and...
Yeah.
That's not what I'm picturing. If you think about it, I'm talking about pure like...
Yeah, that's fair
enough. You know what I mean? I know what I knew you were going to say that, because it is snowing.
Yes.
But it's not... And it's also at night.
Yeah.
It's all foresty.
So you mean during the day, like, get rid of the forest.
But that's also not a pure... Like that part that I was fighting on was not pure snow. Where that crash landed in the Falcon to begin with, that was pure snow. Like, everything was covered in snow.
Yeah.
It was cold. It looked climate. Like, when they were fighting in the thing, it didn't look snowy. It looked more like the after Mustafar, where after it's got their lava gone kind of thing. It was just, like stick trees and a bit of snow from the ground from the environmental rain kind of thing. Like it wasn't a snow. I wouldn't call that a snow biome fight. You know what I mean? Like unlike what you would see on Ilum or Hoth or the planet that the Bad Batch won, which I keep thinking of because
it's Barton 4. That's the planet name.
Didn't even know that. There you go. Learn something new every day. But you know what I mean? That would have been a much cooler thing to see. Because even if you want to argue that The Force Awakens was a snow fight, it didn't look like a snow fight.
Correct. In
terms of, it was dark still. It had a bit of snow dripping on them, which was cool, but it didn't have like the fight wasn't influenced by the environmental impacts of being a snow kind of environment.
Yeah.
And I think we don't really get daytime fights that much. And I really enjoyed when in Rise of Skywalker, when they fought on the
Death Star.
Yeah, because the water and everything, it's daytime, it just felt cool. You know what I mean? Yeah. I really like that fight still. And I thought that fight would be top tier if it had just good music.
That's true, there's no music.
If it just had music on that, it would have made it more intense and I would have loved it so much more. But I still do like it. It's one of my favourite fights in the sequel trilogy. So
wow,
yep.
There you go.
That's a little taste for you guys. But other than that, the final fight was I thought it was well acted. I wouldn't change
the dialogue or anything.
Or even the mask breaking. I know it's a reference to kind of like what happens in Rebels, but I think overall it gives, especially for myself who's a prequel lover, it gives a closure to like something additional. Like you probably didn't need this show in general, but it was cool to get that kind of, them acting against each other and that was the only time where I enjoyed the hue because it showed like he was still blue and then when he switched back it was red.
Fully evil, yeah.
That was cool. And yeah, and I'll talk about this in the filmmaking part, but other than that, the shaky cam, get rid of it. Get rid of it completely. Like, for that final fight would have been so much cooler if it just didn't have, like every 2 seconds and I don't know. And other than that, I really enjoyed the final fight. Yeah. Simple as that. Yeah, cool. I probably wouldn't reimagine much apart from Planet. Yeah,
same. Yeah. Do you want to move to filmmaking? Because I don't think the other thing we really need to discuss.
I think
a bit nitpicky.
Yeah, I think filmmaking would be good.
Yeah, all right. So, I mean, we've kind of discussed some of it already, like, obviously, with the lighting, that's been an issue. The stagecraft wasn't very good. There's some points in the show where it's really evident where that's really poor. Like, I think everything on Ner, or like the Inquisitor planet, is just really off, really bad.
Really fake. And Vader's throne castle.
Yes, and almost Mustafar as well, yeah. What else? The lightsabers.
Yep. Change the hues.
Yeah. Well, again, that's with the lighting as well.
They look too perfect though, don't they?
That's it.
Too bright, too like perfect retraction, and it looks like one of those, glow stick things.
Correct. And here's something. I don't know if you picked up on it. You probably did. Especially during the Reva versus Vader fight. Every time a lightsaber hits the ground, it doesn't like sink in like you would normally do. It just bounces off.
Yeah, sparks it off. Yeah.
Yeah, like what? That's not what lightsabers do.
Very bouncy. Yeah, I don't know. I think even if we didn't change any of the plot stuff or anything that we just said before, and if the filmmaking was top notch, it probably wouldn't be even half as bad as it is now.
Correct. Yeah.
I think it makes it worse because of how bad the filmmaking is.
Yes.
I think it's, no offense to Deborah Chow, she did really good in the Mandalorian episodes, but this show was not it.
No. Correct.
Not it at all.
Agreed.
Everything would have been elevated perfectly if the directing was good, the lighting was good, the sound was good, the reactions of how lightsabers work. Yeah, I don't know. I think simply enough that this is probably one of, if not close to the Boba Fett show, the worst filmmaking we've got in Star Wars, 100%.
Absolutely. Again, you mentioned it right at the start. I really feel that you look at this show and it just looks like a high-budget fan film.
100%. 100%. Especially the environments they fight in. It's always... Because fan films, people like to do like rocky terrains because... One, it's private, usually areas, so they can film without distractions, and it's easier to film on a location that's very big. But this is what they did. It's just rocky planets. It doesn't feel sci-fi. It's barely feels Star Wars. Think about it. Like I always think, even if that New Hope fight in the Death Star with Obi-Wan and Darth wasn't great choreographed, it feels iconic because it's on the Death Star.
Yeah.
The environment is sick. The tension is cool. It's very memorable, right? Because there's a location that's different. It feels sci-fi. It feels different. This is that what's it called? Mapuzo planet. I feel like I could go anywhere in an outback and find it almost.
Yeah.
Just with a refinery in the background. Like,
yeah,
you know, like it's disappointing to say the least.
It is, but I mean, look again. This is a show that is obviously we've already said we don't really think it's top quality.
Yeah.
But it's a show that's just I feel like was not thought out very well. It needed to have
the pre-production needed to be
better. Yeah, I agree.
I think that's where they failed completely.
Yeah.
They thought probably I don't know if they had to rush it or they just wanted to get something out, but they definitely needed to think about it better.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yep. So, I mean, if we're reimagining this series, it's going to be better pre-production, better post-production, change the Inquisitors, make Vader more
intimidating in the threat.
And just change some of the decisions with some of the action as well. So
100%.
I feel like that's a fair assessment of this series.
Movie, do we both agree that
yeah, I think it would be better in a movie.
Honestly, I don't know about you guys, but I think that would be a much better Obi-Wan.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
So if that's all we have to say,
that brings us to the end.
That's our first reimagining series that we have started, and that is our opinions about the Obi-Wan show.
Yeah, we'll probably have some more episodes. Well, I reckon we'll do a Boba Fett one.
Boba Fett,
I reckon
100%.
Probably even The Last Jedi might be a good one.
100%.
Even though we're very indifferent about... Oh, not indifferent, we're very
it'd be
different
good. It'd be good to... Even, you know, I'll be even bold to do like a prequel even... I don't know if I'd be bold enough to do an OT one. I don't know.
No.
I think I wouldn't want to touch the OTs because they're just original ones. But
I feel like mainly the shows and probably some of the sequels.
Some of the more controversial Star Wars projects, 100%. Because they're ones that we always have a lot to discuss about and everything.
That's it.
But if you guys enjoyed this type of new style of series, please let us know down below. Share it with your friends, give it a like, subscribe as always. And we shall catch you guys in the next one.
Sounds good.
See ya.
See you guys.